weeks. 13 killed as a portion of a hillside collapses onto a vehicle in Himachal's Chamba. Bangladesh President Mohammad Shahabuddin resigned Speaker Hafiz Uddin Ahmed to become the acting president until next elections. Today I will be connecting Dhaka, Kathmandu and Colombo to talk about Gen Z protests in New Delhi. All three countries underwent huge convulsions because of the Gen Z protest. Traditional power structure was displaced and new actors occupied the space. India is also witnessing a Gen Z protest, but similarity ends there. India is a very robust democracy and social mobility in politics is unrestricted. India holds the capacity to absorb dissent. To discuss this, I am joined by three eminent guests. I am joined by Koshi Raj Koirala from Kathmandu, Dr. Aruna Kulutunga, political analyst, and Shoaib Chaudhary, editor Blitz from Dhaka. Before I come to you, let me take you through what has happened. Gen Z leaders ended up holding meetings with Union Ministers Jitendra Singh and JP Nadda, which in normal circumstances would have been unimaginable. Noted activist Sonam Wangchuk has already broken his fast, but the students are unrelenting. They want the Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan to resign. Prime Minister Modi has already set up fast-track courts, but agitation continues. And I also went and saw the protest site and spoke to the children who had come there. Let me play out my ground report and then I'll go to my panelists. Has Rahul Gandhi come down well in your expectations?
Oh, yes, he is standing with us, but we do not want to make this whole protest political. We want them to stand with us to support us, but please do not make this political.
Isn't it so? Sometimes I really don't know what to say. I'm 50. What's your age?
I'm 22.
इतने साल का 28 साल का फर्क है आप कह रहे हो apolitical है but all the demands are political.
Yeah, they are political. What can we do? They include, you have to get into politics, but see, him protesting in front of PM Modi's house, he should have come here.
Initially, this issue was taken as a joke. Everyone was thinking that 2,000 to 3,000 people might come at most, but there have been a lot of people out here. Apart from that, if we want to talk about government's insensitivity, then we have a lot of proof that how much of lathi charge, how much of violent ways are taken in order to deal with students. So I wouldn't say that government is sensitive at all.
You girls are saying that you're not, that's apolitical, but are you politically affiliated to any frontal organization?
No, not at all. It's my first time attending any protest at all.
You told your parents?
No, not at all. Apart from that, when I
really want to support, we are so excited. We're so.
And if your mom and pop sees you on my channel, then
They must be proud. They must be proud. Okay, ठीक है, मना करते हैं, but कभी ना कभी तो you have to take your stand. Not every time you have to be like mom is denying, dad is denying. You do not.
So you're all braced up, huh? If your father finds out you're on TV.
Yeah, especially my father has been denying me that don't go to college for 2 to 3 days. You don't have to go. Everything is banned. You don't have to attend any protest.
I'm so scared right now.
Even my father is calling me 2 to 3 times since morning that where are you? But I couldn't pick the call. But if I don't come here today, I'll regret after 20 years that I could not go. I was in Delhi.
What I absorb is it's a miasma. It's not one thing. There are political people. There are girls like her. They have not told their parents, and she has come. So I would say that any political party will have a sort of a strong opinion on what is happening, because Gen Z protest tends to be destabilizing. But then I think India is a far stronger country. Our electorate is far more mature, and I have deep faith in Indian electorate, Indian people as a journalist, and Indian democracy, that we have the capacity to absorb all the protests. I mean to say that when India can come back, reshape itself after emergency, this is just a speck. So while the protest continues, there's a standoff. The government is trying its best so that this entire protest is, entire protest ends on a note which is palatable to every party. Politics aside, but students are slightly adamant on this issue. Government still has a lot of room. I think when the Sonam Wangchuk broke his fast, everyone was taken by surprise. So who knows? There are other surprises in wake. I'm joined by Dr. Aruna Kolatunga, political analyst, someone who has worked very closely with Ranil Vikram Singh, Coach Raj Koirala, editor Republica from Kathmandu, and Salahuddin Shoaib Chaudhary, editor Blitz Bangladesh. My entire effort to get all three of you gentlemen together is to understand what is similar and what is dissimilar. All these four countries are together in a neighborhood, but they have their own unique experiences when these protests happen. So I'll straight away go to Dr. Aruna. So good to see you, sir. How are Delhi and Colombo protests different or similar?
Thank you for having me, first of all. I think I'll start off by just giving a very short synopsis of what happened in Colombo. It's been now 4 or 5 years past. What happened in Colombo was that a political party, the United National Party, sparked off the protest. It was the youth wing of the UNP that actually had the demonstrations to start off with. And that turned into a mass demonstration that was at the Galle Face, right next to the president's office and the president's house at that time. That went on for like 2 or 3 months. Ranil Wickremesinghe was then sworn in as the prime minister. And President Gotabaya had to leave the country, actually. And then what happened was that Ranil Wickremesinghe came and very surgically removed the protesters. However, by this time, the narrative has been built up by non-UNP militant groups. In fact, it was another militant group, Radical Breakoff from the Charata Vimukti Peramuna, who took over the protest midway, and they carried it out. And the narrative was started to emerge, where the whole country was with the protesters. And when it came to so Ranil Wickremesinghe managed to sell the soul. So, for example, I remember Manmohan Singh selling the gold way back, and Ranil Wickremesinghe sold the soul to the IMF, and we managed to come out of our issues in 2025. However, by that time, the narrative was very strong, and in the election. So basically, you have to understand that even though Gotabaya had to leave the country, we are also a strong democracy. So the actual change of the government took place in an election, which was in November 2025. So with that election, the NPP came in. So it was very surprising because the narrative was taken over by what we call the Paratugamis, the radical group of the NPP. But finally, the NPP, which was a group of from the radical JVP as well as other groups of professionals, the people who really were sick of what was going on in terms of corruption, all of that came together and formed this party, and they got a massive majority in the parliament in December that year, which was it was the largest majority up to now. So it was a democratically elected government that came in. So we are also, when you talked about the maturity in politics, I think we are similar. We are very similar. Even though there were protests, the protests came into a situation where there was a change in the leadership, but not of the government, and then the government changed in a democratic election. Okay. So that is how it happened.
Let me take opening comments from Mr. Koirala. Sir, where does the similarity ends? What makes this entire protest different from what Nepal witnessed? I want that, we got the perspective from Dr. Aruna from Colombo. Please give us your perspective from Kathmandu.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think one of the different key difference that I see between Gen Z protests in India and Nepal is that in India, the protest is lasting for several days. In our case, it was just one day that actually triggered because the 19 youths were, they were killed on the first day of the protest, and on the second day, there was a mass outrage among the people at the public level because people were so frustrated with the systemic corruption, lack of accountability on the part of the government, and there were demands. These youths were making demands, but the government was not ready to listen to them. So when the social media was banned, particularly the Facebook, and people started feeling that their liberty was taken away, their freedom of expression, the rights to express their ideas, opinion were taken away, and that triggered the Gen Z protests in Kathmandu. And so, like, what happened was it was very peaceful protests at the beginning. Now it seems there were some youths who were sort of encouraging a small group of youths to actually breach the prohibitory zone and show their strong presence so that government would listen. And at that time, there was some casualty. And that actually led to the protest. And what I see is, you were mentioning that India is a mature democracy. Of course, we are also mature democracy.
Well, everyone is a mature democracy. I'm not. It's not to say that I'm trying to undermine Nepal or Sri Lanka or Bangladesh. I'm saying that India has had experiences like even emergency, but could come out of it. When I say mature democracy, I wanted to locate. Okay, let me rephrase it.
Yeah, sure.
Let me rephrase it. No, let me rephrase it. Any democracy will have a problem if it doesn't have a peaceful transfer of power. It's a problem. Any democracy will have a big problem if it does not have a lot of valve system and the political and the social mobility is limited. In India, political mobility is there. That is why, you can fight elections and you can be somewhere. Look at Bihar, look at Uttar Pradesh, look at the elections in Tamil Nadu. The traditional parties are out and Vijay is the chief minister. So when you have faster political mobility, the system has the capacity to absorb. That was the point I was trying to make about my country, that really works like a valve, So people can have angst, but the electoral process is fair and, you can occupy a political office. That was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, thank you. I got a point. But what I mean to say was, like, we had democracy restored in 1990, although, of course, we had 10-year-long, armed insurgency led by Maoists. Still, we had several rounds of election, and there were different leaders coming up. The people had a perception that these top three leaders, there were Shervadu Deuba and KP Oli and Prachanda, they were there for a long time. And that was, actually created kind of frustration among people. Every time when there is government change, and there was sort of musical chair among these three leaders. So that actually triggered the protest. So basically, yes, if you talk about this, in India, Gen Z protests have a specific demand, like the exam paper leaks. And we had a Facebook ban was a triggering point. Okay. But although, of course, there was an accumulation of, frustration over lack of accountability, frustration over systemic corruption, frustration over lack of employment opportunities to the youth. What I see in whole of South Asia is, like the youth population below 35 years, they consist more than 50-60%. But look at the leader, the people who are in the leadership, most of them, they are, above 60. And, youths are actually demanding their fair share of representation in the government. And I think that is the reason. And, when the youth actually reach to the power, they can come up with the innovative ideas.
I think that's a very good point. The age is a very good point. A lot of people have told me that, the age has to be factored. Let me take opening comments from Shoaib. Shoaib has a different point of view of Bangladesh. He never uses the word Gen Z. I think he will use the word cool if I'm not wrong. But anyway, you are free to say what you want, Shoaib. I'm not going to dictate.
Kathikati, thank you very much. First of all, my regards to the co-panelists. You see, this regime change conspiracy of the US deep state, it began with Sri Lanka, and then we fell victim of that two years ago, and now Nepal. And everywhere what is happening, they want to destroy the younger generation, they meaning the Western countries. And my profound thanks to our friends in Sri Lanka that they have tackled the situation because the vested interest group, they wanted to destroy the economy of Sri Lanka. They wanted to destroy the prospect of Sri Lanka, but the people of Sri Lanka finally stood in unison in foiling the conspiracy, and now Sri Lanka is in a growing economy. We are very proud of Sri Lanka being a very growing economy. They've overcome this conspiracy. That conspiracy we could not overcome. We are still suffering. Millions of people are unemployed in this country. Now, this regime change plot is now entering India. I can say they find an excuse. In every country, they find a common agenda, but if you look into the blueprint, playbook, it is all the same. They send the younger generations to the streets with the backpacks and chanting slogan, and then, but there is one difference between the agitation in India and the agitation in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, although Jamaat-e-Islami and the Islamic radicals, they joined this movement. Actually, they were the driving force of the movement, but they did not expose their faith. They were pretending to be students. But in India, we can see there are students and there are political leaders. This is the difference in India, because actually in India it is impossible to actualize the regime change plot. America does not know the strength of India's democracy. I'm sure for the next several centuries, they cannot do the same conspiracy, even in Sri Lanka. Impossible. And we Bangladeshis, if we succeed finally in overcoming this challenge, they cannot do it with us. One more important thing, Kathmandu, I'd like to share with you, that this same deep state, they were using their planted people in Dhaka to completely destroy relations with India. I mean, you know what Muhammad Yunus has done.
Today I will not get into that part. Today, Shoaib.
One second. Just before half an hour, there is an announcement that Bangladesh Prime Minister is visiting India on the 12th of September.
Okay. I really don't want to get into that defense and security part. I just want to keep it to the part of the students. Dr. Aruna, if you remember, we did a podcast and the conclusion was that this protest which took place did not challenge the constitutional order. It just restored it. That experience was different in Nepal. So I also want to know, how was that different, your protest different from Nepal? Because that was entire Colombo. If you look at it, this is in one part of New Delhi. You know, one has to be, I live in NCR, you know, I live in Delhi. So I know there are national protests all over India that have taken place, but the site of the protest is in one part of New Delhi. It's not as if the entire Delhi is witnessing protest.
I must say that in fact even in Colombo the protest was very strongly focused in Colface, so that is why I brought that thing in. But initially there were groups that were demonstrating with pots and pans, and I mean that's why I said the UNP, the youth wing of the UNP started it in a kind of distributed way. However, it then became focused in one small area, the Colface grounds near the Parliament, the President's office. But having said that, what very interesting is what I see from the comments that were made by my co-panelists is that both Sri Lanka and India, which had a democratic system from 1940s onwards, really, while there were I was right in the middle of this protest until the last day, and I saw to myself what others termed as violence. It didn't happen. There was no violence. There were surgical, how would I say, surgical operations that the government took place. There was one incident where the supporters of former Prime Minister Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa stormed the Colface. But what happened with that incident is that they got whole of the other protesters, even government servants, came out of their buildings and they managed to throw off the people, the former members of parliament, who came into so-called, they want to evict the protesters, but they got evicted.
But in Colombo, did you have one single person like here it is Wangchuk, you know, who became the face?
No. That is the important point here. All of that was hidden. all of that was hidden. So we didn't see. There was one party that was, as I said, the Perutugami party, which came out as the kind of the leaders of this protest. They were very young people.
And I think the
But,
other difference is here the students are demanding just the resignation of Education Minister and reform in educational sector. This is not a protest against the government in the sense, this is not a protest against the Modi government. This is a protest against an administrative failure which is about education sector. So I think that is one big difference.
Sri Lanka was just, we want everybody to leave. That is how it started.
Absolutely, sir. Mr. Koirala? Is that the difference? Here it is about education sector because the paper has been leaking. And in Nepal, why did that protest happen? Do you think it happened just because those, that decision to cut internet happened and, people felt agitated, that social media ban that took place? Or was there something deeper which happened there?
As I mentioned earlier, the social media ban, particularly the Facebook, was the triggering point. But
that was the trigger, but what was the deep point?
Deep point was basically it was the frustration over the government because government was not delivering. Although of course it made big promises during election, the government was not being able to provide employment opportunities. Government was not able to end the corruption. There was also like systemic corruption in all institutions, like because the political parties would install their people in different, watchdog, even Supreme Court, Appellate Court, and different courts, and there was sort of setting. And those who were close to the power would go unpunished. There was sort of impunity to them. And youth were actually seeing this thing and they wanted to have sort of new government that is accountable and that is responsive to their demand. That was the main thrust of the protest in Nepal.
And more than that, the ire had to be faced by politicians also, A lot of people, had to run for their lives. That is also something which happened uniquely in Nepal. It was not seen in.
It happened in Sri Lanka as well.
It happened in Sri Lanka.
Very similar. Very similar because the president had to leave the country. 78 residences of members of parliament were burned to the ground, if you remember.
And I think the same thing happened in Bangladesh. But I think that is why I got all three of you, because generally people are saying that, this is akin to what has happened in Bangladesh, akin to what has happened in Nepal, or akin to what has happened in Colombo. I think what we witness is something uniquely very different, That like Anna Hazare, which was about...
May I just break it for 1 second?
Absolutely, sir.
This takes me back to my own student days. In 1977, there was a major protest that I participated as a student. I was on the road against what we call the white paper on education. And that was a white paper that was done in fact by Ranil Wickremesinghe as the young Minister of Education. And we all got into the street and we demonstrated. Nothing happened. I think I got hit and put into a police van. But other than that, nothing really came out of that protest. But we've also had these targeted protests against the education system from the students over a long period of time. But the difference is that even in the what we call the Aradale, it started with education protests. It started with the university.
Absolutely. And Mr. Chaudhary, there's another... Yeah, you wanted to come because both of you are journalists. Mr. Koirala, this AI... content creation and ability of people to connect together is one aspect, which requires a lot of attention, In last 10 years, you don't need an organization. You need...
You need WhatsApp.
You need Instagram today, not even Twitter.
Yes.
Not even X. You need to be on Insta.
That was actually what I wanted to add onto this because, youths, they are exposed to everything that is happening around the world. And many of our students, many of our youths who have gone abroad, they actually talk about the place where they are living. Like they are in Australia, they are in UK, they are in Canada, US. They talk about the things that are there. And the youths, their expectation has increased so much. And they want those expectations to be delivered as they make promise during the election. In real, and when they fail to deliver, I think we need to understand the dynamics of this student migration, I would say, because there are many youths who have gone abroad and the youths who are back home, they are in contact with those people and their aspiration, their expectation have increased a lot. And our old political leadership, I would call call them septuagenarian and octogenarian leadership, they can't understand. Because I also teach at a college, a university student, and when I talk to them, why did they vote for Balin? And they say, see, we cannot connect with elderly leader like K.P. Oli, Serva Deva, or any other elderly people. So we want someone who we can connect with. So that is how things are changing in South Asia, and our older leaders, elderly leaders, need to understand before it is too late.
Okay. Closing comments from Mr. Chaudhary.
First of all, see, in our region, the youngers are coming with this protest. But when we are talking about elderly leadership, look into the West, look into the United States. All the leaders are elderly. There is no space for the youngers. There is no space for youngers with coming with this kind of protest. I mean, majority of the leaders in the US or in the UK or everywhere, they are people above the age of 35, 40, something like this. So this is not a question of age. This is actually someone else from outside infiltrating some idea into our minds with the ultimate agenda of causing damage to our nations. And again, I would like to say thanks to my Sri Lankan friends, brothers and sisters. They have overcome this challenge. They have stood strong together and rebuilding Sri Lanka, which we could not do, unfortunately, until now.
Absolutely. There are three different opinions today. I went there. You know what I really found different, because I covered Anna Hazare agitation and then I was covering UP and Congress, and I said, no, I'm going to cover this agitation. The protest, people who are coming here to protest are younger. Their age profile is younger. You know, I have met people who are in 12th class. That was not the case in Anna Hazare agitation. And secondly, the crowd, may I use the word, is far more hep than what I saw in 2011, far more internally networked. But yes, I also feel that I also feel that, in terms of reform, there is also a lack of articulation, because obviously there is no structure there. So everyone is gone there because they understand it's something great thing to do, something they need to participate. But how is it going to end? I think that idea is missing. They want to do Gandhian protest, but Gandhi as a model of peaceful protest always had an ending. And there was an ethic of that discipline that if something goes out of bound, then the protest goes out of the window. So, but that's...
And also he had a structure. He had a massive structure.
He had a massive structure, but that's what the postmodern protests are now. But anyway, I really deeply, I thank all of you for joining me, for giving those perspective and creating this Delhi, Kathmandu, Colombo and Dhaka connect. And this is all I had on my on point number 1. But don't go away. After a short break, I'll come back and you'll see my on point 2, which is my interview with Gurdeep Sapal, who is the permanent invitee to the Congress Working Committee, and why Congress insists that Pradhan should resign.
Pushpalata, we need to get the house waterproofed.
But waterproofing is more expensive now. So your new phone, it's cancelled.
Guys, be naya zamana. Birla Opus is giving 10% free paint. So now waterproof your home worry-free.
10% free waterproofing only with Birla Opus.
Lion O's family.
इसमें है फाइबर, बीटा ग्लूकोन, प्रोटीन, मैग्नीशियम तत्व, इसलिए यह शारीरिक संतुलन के साथ साथ शरीर को स्वस्थ रखता है। लायन ओट्स फैमिली, सुपर एक्शन फैमिली।
Welcome to this edition of On Point. I'm Kartikeya Sharma and I'm joined by Gurdeep Singh Sapal, who is permanent invitee to the Congress Working Committee. Gurdeep, thank you so much for making time for News9. And let me begin this conversation by asking you, the protest which is taking place in Delhi has 3 constituents. One is Mr. Wangchuk, who has ended the fast. Another is Cockroach Janata Party, which wants Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. And the third constituent now is the Congress Party, though they have not gone to Jantar Mantar, but they have taken up the issue in Parliament. In your opinion, what happens from now?
Look, number one, we do not see this agitation in parts. It's not that one part belongs to one section, one belongs to Congress and one belongs to third section. It's not like that. It's a genuine outpouring of sentiments, and the youth are agitated. Whoever is joining is joining. So, we are not claiming the agitation and we are not dividing the agitation. And our stand has been very clear from day one that the minister has to go. Minister has to go because this is not a question of one single crime being committed, that there was a leakage and that leakage has not been plugged. It is an outcome of a conscious policy decision by Modi government. I will come to that later. So, that has been from day one, and after the atrocities and lathi charge on students, our point has been that accountability has to be fixed. The law does not provide that policemen without badges can go in for crowd control. The law does not provide that policemen in civil clothes can do a lathi charge. Laws are very clear. Supreme Court judgments are there on this issue. So, if the government of India is behaving, is treating police like a gunda force, then somebody has to be held accountable. And third, as Rahul Gandhi has been saying for last